the invisible habit that shapes your life. No matter how many books you read, how hard you hustle, or how disciplined you try to be, if you don't change this one habit, nothing truly changes. What if I told you the most powerful force shaping your life isn't outside of you, but inside your head? Not your job, not your past, not your circumstances, but the thoughts you repeat when no one's watching. And here's the twist. Most people never realize it. But if you do, you can rewire your reality. Let me ask you something. What's the one habit that shapes your life more than anything else, yet often goes unnoticed? It's not your morning routine. It's not your workout plan. It's not how many books you read or how organized your calendar looks. It's your thoughts. That's right. The habit of thought is the most powerful force shaping your reality. And the wild thing is, most people aren't even aware of what they're thinking most of the time. They just think on autopilot. One anxious worry leads to the next. One judgment feeds another. And before you know it, you've practiced the same internal script for months, sometimes years. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Thoughts don't just stay in your head. They become your identity. They shape how you show up in conversations, how you handle stress, how you treat others, and most importantly, how you treat yourself. If you tell yourself day after day, I'm not good enough, eventually that thought becomes more than just a passing moment. It becomes your lens. You see your opportunities through it. You see your relationships through it. You even see your potential through it. And that's when you stop trying, or worse, you stop believing. The Stoic philosophers understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic master, wrote in his Meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, whatever you consistently focus on, whether it's fear, resentment, or gratitude, becomes the tone of your entire life. Think about that. Every thought you allow to repeat in your mind is like a brushstroke. Over time, those strokes paint a picture of who you are becoming. So the real question is, are you choosing the thoughts that shape you, or are you letting them be chosen for you by stress, by social media, by old stories from your past? Now, don't get me wrong. You can't control every thought that pops into your mind. None of us can. But what you can control is what you focus on, what you feed, what you repeat. That's what turns a random thought into a habit of thought, and eventually into a belief. Let's say someone tells themselves, I always mess things up. The first time might be frustration. The second time it becomes familiar. And by the 10th time, it's identity. But flip the script and say instead, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm getting better every time. And that becomes a new mental groove. That's where transformation begins. This isn't about positive thinking for the sake of optimism. It's about mental discipline. Just like you train your body with reps in the gym, you train your mind with repeated thoughts. You want more peace? Then train your mind to return to calm instead of chaos. You want more clarity? Then practice asking better questions when confusion strikes. Your mind is a garden, and every thought is a seed. Are you growing weeds or something worth harvesting? So today, I want to invite you to pay attention, not to everything around you, but to what's happening within you. Because until you notice your thoughts, you won't be able to change them. But once you do, you unlock the single greatest tool for transformation you've ever had. And the best part, You don't need anything outside of you to begin. No permission, no fancy tools, just a choice to become aware, to become intentional, and to start practicing better thoughts. Because the life you want to live starts with the thoughts you're practicing today. Thoughts are habits. Two, here's a powerful truth most people never stop to consider. Your thoughts are habits too. Just like brushing your teeth or checking your phone the moment you wake up, the way you think can become automatic, ingrained. Without even realizing it, you could be rehearsing the same thought loops every single day. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, nothing ever works out for me, or why even try? They feel natural, but they're not truths. They're just repeated. And the more you repeat them, the more real they start to feel. We tend to think of habits as physical actions, what we eat, how we move, the routines we follow. But mental habits, they're even more powerful. Why? Because they shape the very lens through which you see everything else. If your mental habit is pessimism, then even opportunities look like threats. If your default thought is self-doubt, then even your strengths start to feel like flukes. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Let that sink in. What you allow your mind to dwell on, over time, colors your identity, your energy, your reality. It's not just about what happens to you, it's about what happens in you. And most of the time, these mental habits are invisible. They run quietly in the background, like software that never turns off. That voice in your head that tells you you're too old to change, too behind to catch up, too broken to become whole. Has that voice ever really been you? Or is it just a pattern you've practiced? It's easy to underestimate how much impact our thoughts have, especially the small passing ones. But they accumulate, they compound. One little moment of self-doubt becomes a pattern of hesitation. One belief that you're not capable turns into avoiding challenge after challenge. Over time, your thoughts become your story, and your story becomes your life. So I want to ask you, what mental habits have you unconsciously picked up? What phrases do you find yourself repeating, not just out loud, but silently when no one else is around? Because identifying those patterns is the first step toward breaking them. Maybe you learned to expect disappointment. Maybe you've been conditioned to shrink your dreams, to apologize for wanting more. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it. And here's the good news. Just as thoughts can become habits, new thoughts can too. You can train your mind the same way you train a muscle. Start with awareness. Catch yourself when you spiral. Pause and question. Is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this something I chose to believe or something I absorbed without noticing? Then slowly begin replacing those old patterns with better ones. Not cheesy affirmations, but real grounded thoughts like, I'm learning. I can improve. I've overcome worse before. This moment is a chance, not a sentence. Because once you realize that thoughts are habits, you stop believing that your first thought has to be your final one. You become the editor of your mind, not just the reader. And that's when the real transformation begins. Not when your circumstances change, but when your mental habits do. Mental repetition equals mental reality. Let me share something that might completely change how you see yourself. Your identity is not something you find. It's something you build. And the bricks you use, they're your thoughts, repeated over time. Think about that. We often imagine identity as some hidden truth we're meant to uncover, like a buried treasure. We believe we'll find ourselves after a trip, a breakthrough, or a perfect moment. But that's not how it works. Who you are isn't found. It's formed. And repetition is what forms it. Every time you say, I'm lazy, even if just in your head, you're rehearsing that identity. You're reinforcing that version of you, whether or not it's who you want to be. But what if instead you said, I'm building, I'm growing, I'm becoming stronger? It might feel awkward at first, maybe even fake. But here's the secret. Everything feels fake the first time you do it. Confidence, discipline, optimism, those are all built by repetition. And the more you repeat something, the more your brain wires it in as truth, whether it's helpful or harmful. Let's take an example. Someone who constantly thinks, I'm terrible at social situations. Even if it's not true, repeating that thought daily will start to shape how they act. They'll avoid eye contact, dodge conversations, hesitate to speak. And before they know it, they become that version of themselves, not because it's who they really are, but because they practice thinking it into existence. Your thoughts are practice, and practice becomes performance. Now flip that. What if that same person starts saying, I'm learning to connect better, or every day I get more comfortable around people? That small shift changes how they show up. It invites growth instead of shame. It builds identity instead of burying it. This is where daily self-talk becomes more than just mental noise. It becomes construction or destruction. Every thought you allow to loop in your mind is either laying the foundation of your confidence or quietly chipping away at it. That's why it's so important to become intentional. Don't let your self-talk be random. Don't let it be inherited from people who never believed in you or society that profits from your insecurity. Start choosing your words. Start programming your inner narrative. Because repetition is a double-edged sword. It can shape your reality or trap you in a false one. You get to decide which side of the blade you're on. And here's the encouraging part. This is trainable. You don't have to change everything overnight. Start small. Choose just one positive, honest thought that reflects who you want to become. Say it once in the morning, again at lunch, again before bed. Let it echo louder than the doubt. Eventually, it won't sound foreign anymore. It'll sound like you. And that's when your mind stops being a battlefield and becomes a blueprint. Take back the narrative. Let me ask you something powerful and maybe a little uncomfortable. Who's writing the story in your head? Is it you or is it someone else? Most people don't realize this, but there's a constant narration happening in our minds. Every single day, from the moment we wake up, we're telling ourselves a story about who we are, what's possible, and what we deserve. But here's the catch. If you're not consciously writing that script, someone else is. Think about it. How many of your beliefs about yourself come from actual experience? And how many were planted there? Maybe you grew up in a household where no one said, I'm proud of you. Maybe a teacher once called you not creative, and you believed it. Maybe social media makes you feel like you're always behind. These voices, family, school, culture, media, they all have a way of sneaking into our heads and programming us. Not because they're evil, but because we weren't aware it was happening. And the danger isn't just the voice. It's when we adopt it as our own. You hear it when someone says, "I've always been bad with money. I'm not the kind of person who can lead. I'm too old to change." These aren't facts. These are scripts, and most of them were written by someone else. That's why this moment matters so much, because today you can make a new decision. You can take back the pen and start rewriting the script from the inside out. The Stoics had a beautiful way of putting this. They taught that while we don't control the world outside us, we do control our inner domain, our thoughts, our choices, our narrative. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that strength begins with awareness. Ask yourself honestly, who has been programming my mind? What beliefs have I accepted without questioning? And most importantly, do they serve the person I want to become?" Because here's the truth. Your beliefs become the blueprint for your behavior, and your behavior builds your reality. So if you believe you're not good enough, you'll act like it. If you believe you don't deserve success, you'll sabotage it. If you believe your best days are behind you, you'll stop creating better ones. But when you flip the script, when you start saying, "I'm growing, I'm capable, I'm allowed to evolve," suddenly everything changes. You don't need permission. You just need intention. Here's something that's helped me personally. Every morning, before checking my phone or diving into the noise, I ask myself a single question. Who do I want to be today? Not in some vague, dreamy way, but concretely. And then I speak one sentence that reflects that person. I lead with calm. I learn through struggle. I don't chase approval. I create value. Simple lines, but they shape my mindset like guardrails for the day. Because I know if I don't write that script, the world will. So here's your invitation. Take back the narrative. Be the author of your thoughts. Challenge the lines that don't belong to you. And write, word by word, a new version of yourself. One that's aligned with your truth, your values, your future. Because your mind is not a billboard for society's opinions. It's your personal journal. Make sure you're the one holding the pen. Curate your inputs. Let me ask you something. If someone tried to hand you a glass of poison, would you drink it? Of course not. You'd push it away, maybe even run in the opposite direction. But here's the strange part. Most of us consume mental poison every single day without even realizing it. Think about it. What's the first thing you see in the morning? A peaceful sunrise? Or a screaming news headline designed to spark outrage? What voices fill your ears during the day? Uplifting conversations or toxic complaints? Gossip and fear? Your mind is like a garden, and every single input is a seed. The problem is, if you're not intentional, that garden gets overrun with weeds. You wouldn't leave your front door wide open for just anyone to walk into your home. So why leave your mental door wide open to anything that wants to influence your thoughts? Let's make this real. Scrolling through social media where everyone looks perfect, watching the same doom-filled news cycle over and over again, listening to people who always focus on what's wrong, never what's possible, these aren't neutral. They shape you. They change the way you think, feel, act, even how you see yourself and what you believe is possible. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it brilliantly. If someone attempted to feed your body with poison, you'd protest. So why do we feed our mind with toxic thoughts? That quote hits hard because it's true. Your thoughts don't come from nowhere. They come from what you allow in. Your inputs, what you read, watch, listen to, and who you talk to, are either fueling your clarity or clouding it. They're either helping you grow or keeping you stuck in cycles of fear, comparison, or self-doubt. So what can you do? You curate. Just like a great museum doesn't display junk, it carefully selects what to show. You can curate the information, people, and environments you allow into your mental space. Start small. Instead of waking up to your phone, try 5 minutes of silence or journaling. Replace one toxic scroll session with a podcast that actually lifts you up. Limit time around people who drain your energy and seek those who challenge you to rise. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. What you consume today becomes your thoughts tomorrow, and your reality the day after that. So here's your challenge for the next 24 hours. Take note of what you're feeding your mind. Ask yourself, is this helping me become the person I want to be? Or is it making that harder? Because the truth is, mental poison doesn't always look like poison. Sometimes it looks like entertainment. Sometimes it sounds like just being realistic. But over time, it shapes your inner world, and that inner world shapes your life. Be ruthless in what you allow in. Be kind in what you choose to focus on. And remember, you become what you feed your mind, so feed it well. Identity through action. Let's start with a simple truth that might shift your whole perspective. You don't become who you are by thinking about it. You become who you are by doing. Most people think identity is something you discover, like a hidden treasure buried deep inside you. But the Stoics and modern psychology suggest something different. Identity isn't found, it's built. And it's built brick by brick with every action you take, especially the small ones. Let me ask you this. What do you do when no one's watching? What habits show up in your life on a daily basis? Because those patterns are shaping something far more powerful than just your schedule. They're shaping your sense of self. Here's the formula most people miss. Identity equals repeated thoughts plus repeated actions. Your beliefs set the direction, but your behavior proves it. Let's say you want to be a confident person. You want to speak up more, lead meetings, walk into a room and own your space. But you wait. You think, I'll act confident once I feel confident. That's backwards. You don't act confident because you feel confident. You feel confident because you act confident again and again. Confidence isn't some magical trait reserved for the lucky few. It's built through consistency, not certainty. Think about it like training a muscle. If you want to get stronger, you lift weights. You don't wait until you feel strong. You start where you are. The same goes for identity. You want to be disciplined. Wake up 10 minutes earlier than usual. You want to be focused? Journal for 5 minutes before checking your phone. You want to be healthy? Take a walk after dinner, even when you don't feel like it. Every small action is a vote for the person you're becoming. And the most powerful part? You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need a full plan. You don't even need motivation. You just need to move. When you take action, even a small one, you start changing your narrative. I'm lazy becomes I'm showing up. I'm scattered becomes I'm learning to focus. I'm not a morning person becomes I woke up early 3 days this week. Those are identity shifts, not because you said them, but because you proved them. And this isn't just theory. It's how real transformation works. I've seen it happen. Someone starts with a single habit. Maybe they journal every morning or go to the gym twice a week. At first, it's hard, but after a few weeks, something shifts. They stop saying, I'm trying to be healthier, and start saying, I take care of my body, not because they had a breakthrough moment, but because they acted into their new identity. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced this too. He didn't just write about virtue, he lived it. Every night he reflected on his actions and asked himself, did I live today according to my principles? His journal wasn't for show, it was his tool for identity building, through action, not talk. So let me leave you with this challenge. Don't just declare who you want to be. Don't just hope or visualize or wait for motivation. Act in small ways, in quiet moments. Because those are the moments that matter most. When you take action aligned with your intention, you're not just doing something productive, you're becoming someone powerful. And over time, the person you were trying to be becomes the person you already are. Identity isn't something you wear like a costume. It's something you earn through consistency. And every action, no matter how small, is proof that you're becoming the version of yourself you've been waiting for. So stop waiting. Start proving. Script. Choose the mental habit daily. Part 6. Here's something no one tells you when you're stuck, unmotivated, or waiting for the right time to change your life. You don't need to wait for clarity. You don't need to wait for confidence. You just need to start practicing them right now. Too many of us think we'll begin when we're ready. When I finally figure it out, I'll get started. When I feel more certain, I'll commit. But clarity doesn't come before the journey. It comes from the journey. Confidence isn't a prerequisite. It's a byproduct of action. Let me ask you, have you ever looked back and realized that the hardest part wasn't doing the thing? It was just starting it? That first step, that moment where you finally stopped spinning your wheels and said, enough, I choose to move forward. That's what this is about. Choosing your mental habit daily. Just like you brush your teeth or make your bed, mental habits need repetition. Every day you are shaping your inner world. Your thoughts don't just visit you. You invite them. You rehearse them. You make space for them to stay. That's why the Stoics were obsessed with daily reflection. Marcus Aurelius didn't just think about virtue. He wrote it down. He examined himself. He made a habit of checking his mind. Seneca advised setting aside time each night to review the day, not to shame yourself, but to learn. Why? Because the mind, like the body, needs training. Think about this. If you never worked out your physical muscles, would you expect to be strong? Of course not. So why do we expect mental strength, clarity, and confidence to just show up without practice? Let's get real for a moment. Most of the thoughts running through your head today aren't new. They're recycled. They're habits. Some are helpful, others are toxic. And whether you realize it or not, every day you're choosing which ones to repeat. That's why mental discipline matters. It's not about becoming rigid or robotic. It's about being intentional. It means asking yourself, what kind of thoughts am I rehearsing right now? Are they helping me grow or keeping me stuck? Is this the mindset of the person I'm becoming? When you take even 5 minutes each morning or evening to reflect, write, or sit in silence, you're doing more than calming your mind. You're planting seeds for who you want to be. And the more often you do it, the more rooted those seeds become. Look, transformation doesn't come from one big leap. It comes from small, repeated acts of mental courage, from choosing discipline over distraction, from choosing stillness over noise, from choosing clarity, even when your world feels chaotic. Because here's the truth. The most powerful change you'll ever make doesn't start in the gym. It doesn't start with a promotion or a new habit tracker. It starts in silence. It starts with intention. It starts when you decide, this is how I will think today. So if you're waiting for the perfect moment to get clear on your goals, your identity, or your purpose, stop waiting. Begin now. Choose the thought. Choose the mindset. Choose the habit, not someday, today. Because your mind is not just a mirror, it's a canvas. And what you paint on it, daily deliberately, becomes the landscape of your life. So pick up the brush, start with a single stroke, and keep showing up, day by day, habit by habit, until you look up one morning and realize you didn't just think your way into a better life, you built it. Reprogram your life with awareness. Let me leave you with this. Something that could change the entire direction of your life if you let it sink in. Your thoughts aren't just thoughts. They're blueprints. Every belief you carry, every assumption you make, every internal phrase you repeat, those aren't just passing ideas. They're instructions. They're shaping the decisions you make, the chances you take, and the life you build. So here's the real question. Are you programming your life on purpose or by default? See, most of us never learned how to manage our inner world. We were handed beliefs from our parents, from school, from society. We were told what's possible, what's acceptable, what's realistic, and we absorbed those messages without realizing they were optional. But the truth is, everything in your external world is a reflection of the internal world you've been rehearsing for years. The good news? You can rewrite the code, starting now. It begins with awareness, stepping back and actually listening to your thoughts, noticing the ones that keep showing up. I'm not good enough. I'll always struggle. This is just who I am. Those aren't facts. They're habits. And just like any habit, they can be unlearned and replaced. Repetition is how this works. Not dramatic one-time breakthroughs, but simple, consistent rewiring. You wake up and choose a better thought. You face a challenge and practice a more empowering story. You hit a wall and instead of saying, "This always happens to me," you say, "Here's my chance to grow." The Stoics knew this. They practiced it daily, not just with words, but with action and reflection. They understood that our mind is a powerful tool, and if left untrained, it can destroy us. But if sharpened with discipline and awareness, it becomes a weapon for greatness. So here's the final takeaway I want you to hold on to. You don't need permission to transform. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to feel ready. You need one thing, a choice. A choice to stop waiting and start thinking like the person you want to become. To stop asking, "Can I?" and start saying, "I will." To stop letting old programming run the show and start coding your life with intention. Because your thoughts aren't passive. They are your creative force. And when you realize that, everything changes. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, don't just roll into your day on autopilot. Pause. Choose one empowering belief. Say it, feel it, repeat it, then act in alignment with it. Do that again the next day, and the next, And soon it won't feel like effort, it'll feel like you. That's how transformation happens. Not by waiting for it, but by training for it. So, what are you rehearsing? What story are you choosing to believe today? And what if, from this moment forward, you became the author, not the echo? Start now. Reprogram your mind. Rebuild your life, one thought at a time. Because your life doesn't change when your circumstances shift. It changes when your thinking does. And that power, your mind isn't broken. It's just been untrained. Start now. Train it, and life will follow. It's already in your hands. Now it's your turn. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait. Start now. Choose one thought, just one, that empowers you. Write it down, say it aloud, repeat it daily. And if this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom, and remember, your mind is not your enemy, it's your tool. Reprogram it and you'll rebuild everything.